Welcome to Hobby Hardwood, Alabama Sawmill, a mom and pop operation that produces some of the highest grade lumber in the country. Hey folks, welcome to today's episode of Sawing with Robert Milton. That's me at Hobby Hardwood. That's here. We are a retail high grade lumber business. We sell wood. We saw wood too. The reason I'm saying that is because whoever saws the wood, I got to sell it. And if it's crooked and it's twisted, nobody's going to buy it. Since we're the ones doing the sawing, the kiln drying, the secondary process, and if that board doesn't come up flat, I only got one person to blame. That's me, because it all starts with the guy sawing the wood. In order to produce flat wood, there's a lot of techniques you have to use. One of the most fundamental is called parallel bark sawing. It's doing exactly what the name implies. You make sure that the saw blade is sawing parallel to the bark, which basically means you're sawing parallel to the growth rings, which is a lot different than sawing parallel to the axis. Parallel to the axis sawing is typically used for quarter sawing. If you're going to be doing high grade lumber flat sawn, then you need to set your best faces of your log where you're sawing parallel to the bark. So that eliminates a lot of the stresses in the boards, because you're taking the wood off in the same plane as Mother Nature put the wood on. We all know that logs have a lot of taper to them. If you saw right down the parallel to the central axis, then you're cutting transversely across many layers of wood on the outside of the log. You're going to induce stress, twist, curve, and all kinds of things that's going to make your wood look like a Pringle. Nobody likes Pringles in their lumber. They do like Pringles as food. I certainly do. So parallel bark sawing is key. It's a fundamental thing you ought to learn if you don't know how to do it. If you do know how to do it, but you're not doing it, then you ought to start doing it. And if you're not doing it, then your customers are coming to me. Parallel bark sawing is something you need to do routinely if you want to produce flat lumber. That's what us at Hobby Hardwood are all about, producing flat lumber. You got a parallel bark saw. Pretty much any sawmill, whether it's manual or hydraulic, will have a provision for something called toe boards. They're either little rollers, they're hydraulic jacks, there's some wedge, there's something that allows you, when you put the log on the sawmill, to raise one end to the other so that the top of the log is going to be parallel to the travel of the saw blade. That's important. That means you're going to basically be skinning those boards off the log. The first few outer jacket boards, or what's called sidewood, which is the highest grade wood on the log, is going to be sawn in a pattern very similar to the same pattern that Mother Nature put those boards on. Sawing transversely through the log, even a few inches, always produces warped and twisted wood. You're cutting through too many growth rings, you're inducing too much stress. Use your toe boards, adjust your log to be parallel to the saw head on your best faces, and make flat lumber. So anyway, today we're going to do a little video on how I use my toe boards. And at the end of the video, because I want you to watch all through it, or at least skip through it, but at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a trick that I use to jack up one end of the log or the other if the log doesn't actually happen to land on a toe board.
So what you want to do is something called parallel bark sawing on your best faces. This is another reason those drag back fingers are so handy. I'm using my eye to level the log. But then, if you'll notice, a lot of times I will move the head to the far end of the log as I'm loading it. When I come back, I can drive, see that one finger? I can drag a finger right over the top of the board, or excuse me, over the top of the log, and I can tell if I've leveled this log. It's a little off. See that? Now look at it. So I tweaked the toe board a little bit. It hits on that end of the log. It's on this end of the log, and what I'm talking about, these guys, right here, and right over there. So I'm leveling the best part of the hardwood, the best part of the log for my first cuts, because I want those outside jacket boards of the side wood to be the best.
In this particular case, the log face has an hourglass shape. So the fingers will miss in the middle of the log, but they drag on the far side, they drag on the near side. As best as I can make it, this high-grade face has been leveled.
I don't even know if I'm in the frame.
The opening faces on any logs are critical to how well the log is going to saw down through its core, as well as the grade of the side wood. It is the highest grade boards on a hardwood log. That's where you need to put your effort into. Get your side wood flat, get it parallel to the blade, get a good opening face. And look at the face. Make sure it's what you want. Don't keep sawing until you're happy. Here's a hint to what's at the end of the video. I am not using my toe boards to level this log, simply because the log's not on the toe boards. Here's me leveling the bark with my drag back fingers. It goes pretty quick once you get the hang of it. Already got it leveled. I'm going to go ahead and take a few more off of this thing, flip them down to the loader arms so I can edge them. Yes, I do have an edger, but sometimes this is almost as fast when I'm sawing by myself, and I'm kind of sawing by myself here. So here's something I have not explained yet. If you'll notice how gingerly I'm turning this face on this cant. I have my chain turner adjusted in such a way that it will not dig into the face of the board. That was a cool flip down to the loader arm. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I haven't covered that in a video. Kind of one of my trade secrets. I'm not sure I will. I might. Y'all give me some comments on that. Is anybody else impressed with the color of this rainbow poplar log? Man, this is a good one. Please don't give the all too often comment, oh, the color's gonna fade. Not if it's finished correctly. Bright hues, reds, purples, whatnot, they are of a wavelength that does dull with ultraviolet light, ultraviolet radiation, but there are special finishes out there that can make the color last. I have seen it done by some of our customers where the boards will stay color fast and bright for over 10 years. If anybody else is hearing it, but I sure am. That sound of that blade making that E flat or E sharp, As it's cutting through this cant, that means it's running at the right speed and it's doing what it wants to do. If you're not hearing that blade sing to you when you're sawing, you ought to try to make some adjustments, because when it's singing, it's happy and it's eating. It's also leaving a minimum amount of sawdust too. I've covered that in a different video. I pretty much got this thing where I want it now. I know what it's going to give me, and it's time to just rock and roll and eat this thing. Not a whole lot left I can do to it that I haven't already made adjustments for. So now it's just let the big dog eat. In case you didn't get a good look at the boards when I was sawing them, yeah, these things are pretty. Well, sometimes you load the log and it doesn't land on the toe boards. It's a swing and a miss. So if you have hydraulics, you don't need no stinking toe boards. Use your log clamp and your chain turner to jack the log up. You can see I have done so here. It is completely off the bed, and just make sure that you have it properly secured before you get to sawing on it. This definitely falls into one of those use at your own risk techniques. I do it all the time. You just want to make sure you're held up by your clamp and your chain turner before you make a mistake and drop the log and tear up your sawmill. Other than that, it's a very easy and fast technique to use. Thanks for visiting our sawmill. Click on the links above to see more of our videos.